So is there an example in the United States or North America that we can talk about that we've tried it here and it's worked, or let's use an example if it's tried it here and it didn't work?
I'll defer to Ammon and Jeff. That's a great model.
Yeah. So to briefly answer your why, and then I'll talk about Ammon. The problem is the monopoly. So they've got a monopoly both on the infrastructure and on the services. So you're breaking that up. It is a natural monopoly, the infrastructure, but the problem with the cable companies is that they're going to keep this 30, 40-year-old coaxial cable in the ground or on the poles as long as people let them. And people don't understand that fiber has 25,000 times more capacity than coaxial cable. So there's no question that fiber should be the base infrastructure. So we're being cheated both at the infrastructure layer, and then we're getting, if you want to get an answer to the question, go look at Spectrum's 5-year stock price, or go look at Cable One's 5-year stock price. And we're not saying, you know, I'm a private company and I'm in it to make money, but the returns they're getting are monopolistic returns. And it's because people don't have a choice. So to talk about the Ammon example. So Ammon is, the cost of connectivity report just came out of the Open Technology Institute out of DC. And we expected Ammon to be the lowest cost in the US in this report. It was actually the lowest cost of fiber in the world. So below Ammon.
Really?
You had Prague, Tokyo, Paris, Copenhagen. I mean, all of these big cities, you had to get below the top 10 to get to the US. So Ammon, Idaho is listed #1 lowest cost internet, fiber optic internet in the world. And that's because their symmetrical gig is $47. So anybody in Ammon, Idaho can get a symmetrical gig for $47.
That's a pretty good deal.
Now, how's that work for them, Jeff? Though, I mean, the model, I guess, because there's two pieces, right? There's then a component that obviously is the infrastructure, and then of course they choose the ISP. You're talking about the data component riding over the infrastructure as the lowest cost.
No. Total cost.
The whole thing. Okay.
Total cost, $47.
And how does the model work like in Ammon? Is the customer pay two different fees, one for the infrastructure, one for the ISP?
Yeah, we actually break it up into 3 categories. We break it up into infrastructure, ongoing maintenance and operations, and then they pay their ISP. So the reason Ammon is unique and why we've been able to drive the price down so low is people can switch their ISP on demand. So if you don't like your ISP, it literally takes 45 seconds to switch your ISP. And so there is a true marketplace. So let's just say your ISP goes down. So there's a problem at the ISP.
So what's the incentive for I guess, and unfortunately we don't have we had our service provider panelist couldn't make it today, but I mean, what's the value and what's the incentive if the customer is able to flip from provider to provider in that situation?
They can serve the town. So an ISP can serve the town of Ammon. It's very similar to an MDU, by the way, right? You serve the town of Ammon, but you don't have to build the infrastructure.
Yeah.
You think it through. It's not like a no-brainer. If the CFO of Verizon goes into this, why he's not jumping at it, I have no idea. Because he could serve Ammon, Idaho with FiOS without spending a penny on construction. Right? He's already invested billions in the back end of FiOS. So he doesn't have to spend another penny on that because it's already working. All he has to do is lease VLANs from Ammon. It's that easy.
I guess to dig into Ammon a little bit, is that it's a fascinating example. Like compared to the Europe and the PE, was it a PE funded initiative or was it a community funded initiative?
Yeah, so the city built the backbone for the network with reserves from the water department. And that was about $1.2 million for the initial backbone. And then they used a local improvement district model, which is the only model available to them in Idaho. And so when a subscriber signs up, they're signing up acknowledging this is an improvement to my property and I'm responsible for my connection. So this is like my water connection. This is like my sewer connection. They're not, their obligation is to the infrastructure. It's not
Got it.
SP or to an ongoing M&O contract. It's just to the infrastructure, which turns out to be about $21 of the 47 total.
This will kind of date me, I guess, but I remember, I'm sure all of you can remember the whole Lifeline tax, right?
Yep.
Like from the telcos, right? It's the, which ultimately changed to getting broadband, but it's kind of that, right? I mean, they're paying for, essentially the infrastructure is the Lifeline, and it is the broadband connection, right?
So far, they've done it opt-in, so it's voluntary. I mean, the least expensive path is to mandate it for everybody. The city leaders didn't feel like there was unified support for that, so they did an opt-in local improvement district, and they've ended up with 65% take rates, so they've got substantial take rates.
Wow.
But it's not nobody's forced to participate.
Rio Blanco County in rural Northwest Colorado is a similar story. They're doing a symmetric gig on their fiber network. I think it's $65 a month. They have 3 provider options on their network. The county provides the infrastructure and has built out the infrastructure, and they have 3 local ISPs. None of the national ISPs have really been interested in coming on the networks and engaging. Greg, to your point, I don't know why Verizon and all these other providers aren't coming on these smaller networks, but it's an amazing opportunity. They have a small 4-year college in the town of Rangeley, and one of the things that this college is pitching to prospective students, or they were pre-COVID-19. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they guaranteed a gig to every dormer.